this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. This is a sort of principle. A while back I did a haircut on this maple, and it's, I'll call it its sister because I've got two that are of, well, they're the same age, they're a different variety, and they have a different growth pattern. But I did a haircut on this video, on this tree, more coffee, a while back. Now, if I can find that video, I'll put an info card up now so you can see what I mean by a haircut. And basically, if you've been away, welcome back. If you haven't, well, so be it. The haircut was to reintroduce the layers by taking out the excessive growth. Now, following on from that, you get new growth. And it's easily identified on this particular tree because the new growth has these gorgeous colours. But what have you actually achieved? What you've done is reintroduce the layers, yes. That makes it look more like a bonsai rather than a bush, which to the eyes is more pleasing. But from the tree's point of view, what have you actually achieved? Well, by hacking it the way I did, I've cut leaves in half, I've taken off shoots part way along, some not necessarily in the right place. And what you get as a consequence is new growth in places. Now, if you look here, the new growth is actually quite good. But when you look at it more thoroughly, what use is that? It's of no use at all. This is of use. This is ramification. Coming on round here, this is too long. But is it? It's a split. It extends this layer. So you've got to go careful in what you cut off. Now if you come to up here, I'll presume that's a side view. What's extended here? Well, that's useless. So's that, it's sticking up in the air. That's too long. And that's too long. But with just a few snips, we've taken control of that pad. Now, come the defoliation called autumn, because we get that every year whether we like it or not on deciduous trees, we will find out what's gone on. Prior to that, it's a little bit difficult. Coming round here, this pad here, well, that's of no use at all, nor is that. It's too long, too spindly, but the rest is actually not too bad. This is ramification on that pad. So these haircuts do achieve something. Now coming round here, I missed this bit, I'm going to have that, take that back and take that back. And that's just an odd leaf. So again, that's just pushing out a little bit too far from the pad. So what we're getting now is a view that the haircut achieved new growth. If this tree had been defoliated a bit more thoroughly rather than just a haircut, if I had actually selected a lot more leaves, now think what this tree would look like. Because it would have a mass of this type of growth with these gorgeous colours, which is great. Would it have done anything for the shape of the tree long term? Oh, you're coming off. So I missed one. Now we get up to the apex, and what's going on up here is of no use whatsoever, because what we've got going on up here is great big long growths. And what do we do with those? We take them back to the pair of leaves prior to that long extension. And that's all we need to do. Somewhere behind each one of these extensions is a pair of leaves. I mean, look at the length of that. But back here is the pair of leaves. Again, there's the pair of leaves. So what are we doing now then by going back to that pair of leaves? What we're doing is introducing the fact that at that pair of leaves we are liable to get 2 new shoots. Now those may be this year, they may be not. I mean, this is of no use whatsoever. Now this is a dodgy one because both of these extensions don't have a base, but they're coming off anyway to see if it will force some buds from that base. You see what I'm getting at? Again, an extension. Back to a pair of leaves. Doesn't matter how far back they are, just get back there. And there's one right up the top. Right up the top. So what have we done now? We've taken back extensions on the, whoops, missed one, on the apex, and it's now the 1st of July. So what are we really trying to achieve here? What we're trying to achieve here is to stop the tree wasting energy, pushing out extensions that at some point we know we're going to cut off. And if we don't do it now, we'll do it in the late winter before the bud break, when we go over our deciduous trees and we actually decide what shoots from the previous year we want to keep and what we don't. So at this point in time, what could I do to improve the layers? Well, we could get rid of some of this growth that's sticking up, and just by taking a couple of leaves off, suddenly there's what we call negative space. Suddenly we can see through the gap here. What about over here? Well, this is not so easy because I've got a broken branch here that's got a serious mend on it. I've got a little pad that's developing slowly but surely, and I've got some leaves that are dropping down from above, which are interfering with that negative space. So we take a few leaves off. Let's see what we get from as a result of that. What about here? Well, last time we gave this a haircut, this was actually intruding on that negative space, and it still is. So we take a bit off. Just take a bit off. Do we always take it off from below? No, sometimes we take it off from above. Sometimes we think that this stuff that's dangling down shouldn't be there. So we take it off, and then suddenly we can see through the gap. And often it's just one leaf that's messing up that view. One large leaf, or a set of a few. So all of a sudden that tree looks, to me, a little bit better. But what I like about this tree is those gorgeous colours. And the bit I don't like about this tree is I still haven't made my flipping mind up, which is the front. Now in theory it's this. Where's the camera? Yes, in theory it's that, where we've got our first branch and our first pad, second branch, rear branch, and then up to the apex. And that to me is probably the best view. But some have actually said they like that view. All in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? I still haven't made my mind up. That's the view I took at the beginning of this year. Excuse me, my eyes are watering because we have serious pollen, which gets to me, because I've just spent some time out in the garden. That's what does it. If I stay indoors it doesn't get me, but you know, you can't stay in all the time, can you? Especially when the sun's shining. So a little tidy up there. I'm actually not going to take, I was just going to take that branch off, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to take a couple of leaves off instead. You see what I'm trying to achieve here? I'm just trying to enable that negative space to look better than it does. And the reason it doesn't look so good is normally just one or two leaves that are slightly out of place. It's like here, look at that leaf hanging down. That's not meant to be there, come off. And you, now all of a sudden we've got our negative space back. Now if you really want to play games with maples, I was told by a very good bonsai person a while ago, a long time ago, that with a maple, once you've had your initial flush and you've got your new leaves for the year, every week, and weekly, this is weekly, you go out and you look at your maple, and depending on the size of the tree, you take off a number of the largest leaves. Just pinch them off, largest leaf, yeah? So you look for the largest leaves on your tree and you take them off. You just pinch them off. Doesn't matter where they are, you just take them off. And you do this every week right through till about August, September time, when the growth has effectively stopped. And what you've done is you've encouraged back budding, you've encouraged growth from leaf joints, and that growth will be much, much smaller. So you've encouraged your tree to produce smaller leaves. And if, like on this one, those new leaves are of such a gorgeous colour, is that not an exercise worth doing? Now I don't know whether that works on other type of deciduous trees, but I've tried it on maples and it works. You don't need to be selective. All you need to do is just look at the tree and say, which are my 10, I mean if it's a huge tree, perhaps 20, largest leaves, and I'm going to take those off. Next week come back and take the next lot off. And you're not doing a defoliation in the true sense like some people do. You're just encouraging some new growth out of the leaf joints behind where that leaf came off. And by taking those largest leaves off, you encourage smaller leaves to grow. And as we all know, the principle of bonsai is to actually give an impression of a tree out in the wild, in the field, in miniature. And it doesn't work if your tree has got huge big leaves on it. It just doesn't work. It just looks like a little tree in a pot. It doesn't look like a true bonsai. So trying to get the small leaves against the scale of the tree is imperative for the true bonsai look. Now this tree's coming on quite nicely. It's got a strange bark. It's got green patches on it. It's got some form to the trunk. It's got a reasonable branch structure, and the ramification is coming on quite well now. So this tree has come from a neglected maple. This was grown from a seedling. I effectively had a 6-inch stick in a pot with about 4 leaves on, and I've grown it on since then, including quite a long period of total neglect. So it's coming on, and as a maple it's not doing bad. No, it hasn't got a serious S-bend at the beginning, because maples don't grow like that. It's a tree. It's representing a tree. Now to truly represent a maple, in the field it's highly likely to be wider than it is tall. But you can't let long extensions be the way you want to make it wider, because they don't work. So you have to do it a bit at a time. And this pad is now getting a lot wider than it used to be. But this one's progressing, so is this one. And again, you've still got that overall shape. So this tree's coming on. I'm quite pleased with the progress on this. Now, what I've been doing with these new growths is, as I walk past, watering or doing other things in the garden, any that are sticking out, I've been just pinching off. I only stopped a couple of weeks ago because I wanted to video it at that stage with those long extensions sticking out. Because if I'd carried on just pinching them off, there'd have been nothing to film. You see what I'm getting at? So anyway, a little bit of maple maintenance midsummer, which is where we are. It's the 1st of July now, it's midsummer. This tree has still got some growing to do. Most of that growing will be where those new extensions are, with those gorgeous coloured leaves. I mean, these are incredibly coloured leaves. Its sister plant doesn't have the same coloration, and it grows slightly differently. So you have to get to know I mean, this has got no name. This is just an Acer palmatum hybrid of some description. It's probably got, I doubt if it's got a name. I doubt if it's got an actual hybrid identity. Does it matter? Well, it doesn't matter to me. It might to some, but it doesn't to me. It's a maple. That's all I'm interested in. And I'm gradually developing it into a wider tree. I don't want it to actually get much taller. If it gets much taller, it'll be out of proportion with the diameter of the trunk. The base of the trunk is getting better all the time. We'll have to repot this next year as well. It hasn't been done for ages. It's probably totally pot bound, but yeah. So there we go, a little bit of maple maintenance and a little bit of maple theory. Now, other people may have their own ideas, so I've just spotted another one sticking up that needs coming off. Other people may have their own theories, and I always say with bonsai, like I do with my orchids, there is no one way. So anybody who sits on a bonsai channel and says, this is what you've got to do, you need to question seriously, because there's never one single way. Many ways to skin a cat, as they say, just don't let me catch you. So that's my take on a little bit of maple maintenance. Now you can go back outside in the semi-sunshine, because this gets some sunshine for part of the day, but not for a lot of it, especially as it's pot bound at the moment, and extreme exposure to sunshine when it's pot bound is going to dry and frazzle the roots, and I can't be watering 2 or 3 times a day. I'm reluctant to water once a day. But anyway, this is coming on. This is a tree that's developing quite nicely. Ramification progressing, branch structure reasonably secure, reasonably happy with that. A little bit of form to the trunk and an apex that's developing. So yeah. So this is no longer a work in progress like it was last year and the year before. This is now becoming a more established bonsai with some form. Well, you could look at it that way. I still haven't made my mind up. But I do remember to turn it so that the leaves actually get a uniform shape, because it's very easy to actually leave a tree in a certain position and then all the leaves turn to face the light. I mean, in the UK at this time of the year, the light comes from the sunshine, as we know, and that covers greater than 180 degrees. You know, so, but there is an area that faces north that is not where the light's coming from. And if your tree has its back to that aspect, the north, then all the leaves will turn and face south. And it looks odd. And when you turn it round, you're looking at the back of all the leaves. So you need to think about turning your trees on a regular basis to make sure all the leaves sit nice and flat. Give it a nice look. And that's what it's like in the UK. You know, I mean, our sun is never directly overhead. It's always at an angle. And if it's at an angle and you want your tree to face that light and look as a one-dimensional tree, then so be it. But if you turn it, maybe a quarter turn every week or so, or half a turn every couple of weeks, it's up to you. Whatever works for the type of tree you're looking at. But yeah, bit of maple maintenance and a bit of a chat. It's a new channel, and I think a lot of you people that are watching the channel are realising that I chat a bit. You can put up with that or do the other thing, because that's what I'm like. So there we go, bit of maple stuff. See you next time.